Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs and executive leaders. We're looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
It is indeed a happy Monday. Ted, you know why this is a special Monday?
Yeah?
Yes, a special Monday. This is
Okay.
different from the other Mondays that we've done this podcast because there's somebody who they're feeling stuck right now. They're
Mm.
feeling pressure. They're on the verge of burning out. They're on the verge of aborting the mission and giving up on that dream that God put inside of them.
Mm.
But today, we're going to talk about how to move from pressure to purpose.
Get unstuck.
Get unstuck. That's right.
Okay.
Get
Okay. Okay.
it.
Okay. Okay.
So they're going to, after they listen to us, after they watch us, they're going to be like, oh, I can do this. This is confirmation that I
Okay.
need to get back on track and do what it is that I'm called to do.
Mm.
It's going to be an exciting episode. All right.
Absolutely.
So today, you know what? We should just get right to it.
Jump on into it, Eric. Jump on into it, man.
That's
Don't
right.
beat around the bush. Jump into it.
That's right. We're not going to beat around the bush. All right. So our guest today, he's known as the Clarity Guy. He's the author of Finding Clarity and the founder of Clarity Catalyst Solutions. He helps leaders and founders escape burnout, break the default loop, and move from pressure to purpose. Practical frameworks and human-centered coaching. So
Mm.
please join me in welcoming to the show, David Prosper.
Hey, let's go. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
I love that intro when you're setting it up as far as, there's somebody who's stuck. There's someone who's like, I felt that. I was like, okay, like, so that resonated. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
You was,
man,
you was
I've been
like,
looking forward to this for a while.
you was like, is that me? Am
Yeah.
I? No, man, you the one supposed to help us get folk unstuck. you, you can't be stuck. You the unstucker guy.
It was good. It was good.
But
It was
you know
just
what?
like,
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So let's talk about this. Like I'm in the Marvel comics and these superheroes, right? And all these heroes, they always have their, right? How they got their powers. So what were the experiences that you had that led to you becoming the Clarity Guy?
that's a good question and great question, actually. I would say using the Marvel's reference, like the hero's journey, it was 2016, May of 2016, and my mother was like on her last couple of weeks, and I remember her on her deathbed saying, "I wish I did enough. I wish I did enough." And I was like, "Mom, you're a Haitian immigrant who came into this country. You got three black kids who are not in jail. Like you hit the lotto, woman." And she laughed, but I could just see the tears fall from her eyes. And as I flew back home to Wisconsin, she was living in Florida and I was living in Wisconsin. I made a decision that moment, like no one is ever going to say, "I wish I did enough" at the end of their lives. So um, that became the catalyst. And then I went on this journey and I was in the mountains and I was like, God, what is my thing? Like Tony Robbins has his things. John Maxwell has his thing. Like, what is David Prosper's thing? And what do you want your children to know? And he said very audible to me, clarity. My children are confused. And I've been for the this is actually 10 years since my mother passed. So I've been on the last 10 years since she's passed, been on this journey of helping people, thousands of people find clarity so that they never say, "I wish I did enough."
Mm.
That's
Um,
powerful. That is
yeah.
powerful. And so you talk about clarity being such a thing, and I can relate to that. I just remember like early in my journey, someone would say, "Hey, so what do you do?" And I remember just really, feeling tongue tied by that. Why is clarity such a problem for people?
Because it becomes a mirror to do reflection. Carl Jung once said, "People neglect to think, so that's why people judge." So it's
True.
easier to judge things than to actually think about things. So why do people struggle with clarity is that it forces you to actually think, to go inside, to reflect, and to like move from your ego and go from an objective place. Like, here's where I'm strong at, here's what I'm not at. And it forces everyone, I believe, it forces everyone to sit in the seat of a student, but we like to be in seats of experts, like we want to arrive. So clarity is constantly like, how are you living in curiosity versus confirmation?
Hmm. So, but you're talking about your journey. I mean, was there a point where you were like a turning point, like where you were actually chasing after the achievement, the accolades, the gold medal, what have you, and then you said, you know what, this really isn't it. I need to be looking at something. Was there like a specific turning point from that standpoint?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Oh, someone just jumped off. It was the fall of 2024, where I was trying to prove like I was made out for corporate, and I'm working all these upper management roles, and I'm having success, and I'm turning like stores around, going from like 20,000 a month to $60,000 a month, um, and within months, and then training and developing people. So like the attention, being the top five store out of 11 stores, and then the money, like the money felt so meaningless, and I was making so much of it.
Hmm.
And I was like, this has no meaning to it. Like, I'm working 70, 80-hour weeks. I'm making a lot of money, but I'm exhausted, and I hate the job that I'm actually doing. I don't like the people that I'm working with.
Mhm.
And I get this pressure of, oh, you still need to perform. I know I can do it, but I begrudgingly do it because I'm like, what is the purpose of this? So that was like the fall of 2024, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna bet on myself, and I'm gonna write a book, and I don't know what's gonna happen. And since I wrote that book, which God told me back in 2016, to write that book, and I was afraid because I was like, who am I to write a book? Like, I'm no expert. But since I wrote that book, it's literally transformed and changed my life and so many others.
Yeah, I want to talk about that here in a little bit, but so it's interesting, Ted. I don't know if I've ever even shared this with you, but like I've been in a similar place to where David talks to. Where people from the outside, you look successful, right? You got going on, you're winning all the awards, but you literally hate what you're doing.
Mm,
And if you were to tell somebody, you know what, I'm ready to walk away from this, they would be shocked.
mm,
And there's somebody that's watching us now that's in that same position. As a matter of fact, you know what? My starting point was my pastor, Ted. Ted and I had the same pastor. Around the same time, was preaching a sermon series titled "Moving from Success to Significance."
mm,
Mm.
And it's like, man, he is talking to me.
mm,
You know.
mm.
So I say all that to say, what advice do you have for that person who feels like they're successful, but they lack that significance and they lack that clarity? What advice do you have based on your experience?
That's a good one. And that's a powerful message, going from success to significance. I would
Mm.
say, I wouldn't necessarily give advice, but I would ask a question. And the question would be, what's is it meaningful? Is it worth it? And
Mm.
it's like every Disney movie, and they go, no, not Disney movie, but going back to Marvel's, and Thanos, when he snapped his finger and killed half the population, and his daughter came back and she asked him this one question: was it worth it?
Hmm.
So, and he sacrificed so much, he was like, it was worth it. So the question I want to ask: is it worth it? Is it worth the hours? Because stress and pressure and work is always going to happen, whether we're doing something we love or do something we
Mm.
hate. The question is it worth it to the things that you're actually doing? And are you living in your purpose? Are you maximizing your gifting? Are you living how God designed you to live? If you're not, then I would encourage you explore a different option and live in your purpose.
Yeah, and I just think the key is not to ignore that feeling,
Yeah.
right? It's there for a reason. So we're here. We're talking about moving from pressure to purpose. Our guest is David Prosper. He's got a great book we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So you talk about the default loop, right? So I'm just curious, like what does this look like in real life, and how can somebody recognize that they're stuck in it?
Oh, so the default loop is living somebody else's script. And it's okay. This is like for me, it was I'm Haitian American, and you had to go to school, become a doctor or a lawyer, or you weren't nothing. And if you didn't do that, like that was our trajectory, or a nurse, if you're a girl. So there was this script that people gave us how to live our lives. And
Mm,
once you go to college, you get a degree, you retire, and you live happily ever after, a white picket fence, and you get married, all that. So there's always these stories that we're living because people have projected us on us or we've inherited. So when we're in that default loop, we don't know why we're doing the things, we're just doing the things. It's like driving to work and then like being in a daze and just like, how did I get here? Because we've
mm,
done it so much and we're on autopilot for the things that aren't working well. And then we feel that urn of like something needs to be different, but I don't know. But I'm just going to stay with what's comfortable. And that's why every new year, everyone gets the urge to be like, new year, new me. I'm going to set these goals. So that is a clear indicator that people have dreams and they have goals and there's something inside. But what happens is if we don't have the systems to sustain us, what happens is we go right back to what we're comfortable with. And that's the default loop.
Hmm.
mm, mm.
So again, so somebody that's in the default, somebody's they're watching like that's me. I'm in
Yeah,
the default
yeah,
loop.
yeah.
What do they do? How do I get out of this default loop?
Ah, that's a profound question. And you're gonna be like, when I answer it, you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, that was the most basic thing I've ever heard in my life. But the crazy thing is, our parents have been telling us since we were young, clean your room. And when I
Mm,
say clean your room, it gives us when we clean our physical space, oftentimes when we feel overwhelmed, when we can't think to our prefrontal cortex, we feel that overwhelmed feeling is because we're crowded by something. So clean your spaces first, and then it gives you the bandwidth to have the emotional capacity to start figuring out what's your next right step. And the best advice is clean your spaces, and you'll start finding like, oh, I have more clarity. Oh, I can think a little bit deeper. I can visualize, but it starts with cleaning our room.
So
wow,
that's
wow.
it. It's just that simple.
So I'm just looking around my office right now. I need to clean up some stuff. I need to clean up some stuff. Man, no, I get it.
Okay. Yeah,
I get it.
I've heard that. So is it just that when you got the clutter is just taking away your attention, keeping you from being able to focus? Is that
Yeah, and the biggest thing about clarity, like there's a misconception, like that clarity is knowing everything. And
Mm,
the misconception people have about clarity is that you know the outcome, but clarity is knowing the direction. So if I'm looking for keys and I have it on my phone, um, and I have AirTags, so like I'll sound off the alarm is gonna show me the direction I need to head. And then I still have to remove things, and then I find my keys. So clarity is knowing where am I going versus what's going to happen. And it's literally when we start clearing out the clutter, we have space for other things.
interesting. It's really interesting. I'm listening to things that you're saying, and it seems like younger people now seem like they operate like that more than we do as you know more seasoned people, right? That have that are used to, okay, here's the structure, you go here, you get a job here in this place, and this is what you do. We think about all those people that worked in the government. Right. I used to work in the government. It was like, hey, you got your good government job and that's it. And don't leave your good government job. And then just recently, right, of everything that's happened in the past year is we saw that the rug was pulled under from under people. Right. And so now, nothing is etched in stone. And so when you think about, some of the younger people, I mean, they just seem like they're a lot more open to doing something the way they want to do it, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be, so much on a script, as it probably has been for some of us more seasoned adults.
Yeah, you said something so powerful. You said the rug was pulled from underneath the people who were
Mm-hmm.
working in the government, and again, going back to clarity, like what direction am I heading? And I I believe there's a silver lining in that, like how COVID pulled a rug from all of us. It removes the illusion of control,
Mm.
and we're all looking for that sense of security. So
Mm-hmm.
we trade convenience for conviction. So it's just like this feels convenient enough, I'm going to do it because I'm familiar, versus exploration and curiosity and courage. So I'm not going to do it. Just like my mother's like, it was easier to stay in the community she was in versus the dreams that she had. So
Mm-hmm.
when life knocked on the door, and we all have that that door knocking service, like what happened? So the silver lining, yes, it's a my heart goes out to people who've lost roles and they're
Yeah.
been financially impacted. At the same time, too, my question is, could this be a potential reset to
Mhm.
redirect you to where you're actually supposed to go versus what you've been conveniently doing?
Yeah. 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 Sometimes I think when you have those situations like that, and we talk about, being forced to pivot.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, some of the things that have happened, like when we think about, what happened with COVID, we were forced to pivot. And then, with the whole government situation, like, so people were forced to pivot,
Yeah.
and so, what do you do when, I always use the saying when all those files and everything you had all over your desk, and then that situation comes, just moves all that stuff out the way. Everything that you had organized a certain way is now all over the place in disarray. And, now what are you going to do? Right. So yeah, that's a situation that, I think that's when then you see what's really in, what do you have inside.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about you're the founder of Clarity Catalyst Solutions. So who specifically do you serve and how exactly do you help them?
Good question. So I serve leaders, founders, and creators, and this looks like all walks of life. I have clients as young as 20, and I have clients as old as 67. And one thing that's common between the different demographics and age is that these people are tired of the same old thing being the same old thing. These people have a desire for something else. They're typically overwhelmed, and they know that there's things taking up space, and they're looking for their next right step while navigating life. So that's how I help people. I help people navigate life. And the book I wrote, Finding Clarity, it's inspired when people, like, I had one client tell me, it's like, man, you have all this wisdom, like you just must be sitting and just like meditating all the time. I was like, no, I don't do that. I just read the book of Proverbs.
Mm.
And if you want wisdom, the book of Proverbs is there. So finding clarity is going back to the root, which is my foundation, and which is God, and it's wisdom. So it's finding wisdom, what is really meaning. But wisdom seems like an overly spiritual word. So
Mhm.
that's how I help people just live in wisdom, because we can't avoid problems, but we can learn how to navigate through it while still remaining true to who God designed us to be.
Uh, that's that's awesome. That's awesome. and hopefully people are starting to take note of this.
Man,
So
Man, David, one of those guys, Eric. Man, it's like you call David, you start talking about something, and he start going deep. Man, look, just tell me what I want, what I got to do, man. Just tell me what I got to do, man.
I started asking questions. You were like, all right, I just need the
Right,
solution. I was like,
man.
but
What I
no,
just need
it's
a
a
solution, man.
process.
I need a
A
solution. Tell me what
process.
to do. I need $100, David. That's what I need, man. I need a loan.
so let's talk about this thing. Our theme is pressure versus purpose. Like how would you define pressure versus purpose, and how can one of our viewers tell which one is driving them?
Ooh. So pressure is something pushing you, and
Mm,
purpose is something pulling you. So think of when you're being pushed to do something, you have to get motivated. You have to like do all the stuff, the rituals, the rain dance, all that silly stuff. You have to do it. But purpose is like, hold on, this is what I'm called to do. This is what
mm,
I'm meant to do. I'm designed to lead. I'm designed to empower. I'm designed to teach and to facilitate, to cultivate, to collaborate, to celebrate. That's what I'm
mm,
called to do. So I naturally do it. It's like looking at a tree that's producing apple trees or apples. Like it doesn't have to try to produce apples, it just produces
mm,
apples. But if we look at a tree that produces apple and we say, hey, you should make oranges, it's just like now you have to manipulate it and facilitate. So it's if you feel pushed to do something constantly, motivation is a beautiful thing. But if you're constantly being pushed to do it versus inspired to do it, you're leading from pressure rather than purpose.
So
So
now, I mean, go ahead, Ted.
yeah. So that just sounds like so you can only motivate someone but so much, right? Like they either gonna, we just say they're gonna make the apples or they not,
Yeah.
right? Wow.
So to me, one of the takeaways is people should really try to find alignment, right, as opposed to just looking at things that are going to pay a lot of money.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing. It's like we have this we've been watching Hollywood and it's just like there's this overarching paradigm. It's like we want financial wealth and financial freedom. And I was talking to a potential client and I was like, what does financial freedom mean to you? It's like, well, I want to travel with my family and spend time with them during the holidays. I was like, so what number do you need?
mm,
So there's this thing of like, okay, I need this, so I'm gonna do a job that pushes me versus find alignment. We and do it so well that we get paid to do it. King Solomon, I remember listening to this commentary on it. It was like King Solomon was the wisest man in the book, but it also talked about he was also the wealthiest. And then
mm,
this guy was like, he had kings and queens come from around the nation to ask for advice. He was consulting, he was coaching, he was advising. So he was so good at what he did. People from around the world came to seek it out and pay him. So you can make, I believe you can make very good money doing what you do well. And it actually comes easier to the point where doing something that's not in your gifting and now you're working 10 times harder and it's not fruitful and it's not in alignment.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm even a fan of some of these like personality assessments and things of that nature because I it they do tend to tell how aligned you are based off your personality and just genetic factors and things of that nature. And I think people tend to dismiss it, but I think it's something to take seriously.
Mm,
Mhm.
To
yeah.
kind of align what we're talking about here. So people are on the edge of their seat, right? They want to know, what are some specific steps I can take? I'm feeling all this pressure.
That's
I
right.
want to go. I want to move from pressure to purpose. What are some
That's it.
specific steps people can take?
Help them, David. Help them,
All
David.
right, all right. Hype me up, hype me up.
Help them. Help them. Come
So the
on.
C5, the first C is capacity. So
Mm.
do you have the bandwidth in this season to do the thing that you want to do? And if not, what do you need to subtract from your life? The second C is Competency. Do you have the skill set to do what you want to do in the next season of your life? If not, how are you going to develop that skill set and who are you going to learn from? The third C is courage. Are you living in a space where you're activating more of your faith, or are you living in a space where you're acting more of your fear? Martin Luther King has one of my favorite quotes from him. He says, "Faith is taking this first step, even though you don't see the staircase." So,
Mm.
are you living in that next step? Because it takes courage, and courage is not the absence of fear, but the presence of faith. So, are you living in that space of, I'm going to do it anyways because I believe in the impossible? Just like a bird on a tree is not afraid of the branch breaking because it believes in its ability to fly.
Mm.
Um, the the
Hang
fourth
on.
C.
Wait. Hold
Right,
on.
right,
Wait,
right,
wait,
right.
wait.
I'm telling you, he just rolling them out there. He just rolling them out there. Look.
Man, that was powerful.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bird, bird is not worried. Bird is not worried about that branch.
yeah. So here's my thing, right? You mentioned the Dr. King quote. Like there's certain people, it's like they have to have 100% of all the details.
Yeah.
They got to know about the thing a year in advance and have all the logistics and what hotel we staying at. And
Yeah.
but I find that certain people who have a certain level of success, they need less details to move. I mean, please share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's because when those people become successful, they have their purpose. They
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
okay, what am I here to do and what am I here to create? Then the purpose naturally inspires the people. And then the people develop the path, and the path becomes the product, whatever it is. So going back to Martin Luther King, this famous speech, "I have a dream." He knew the direction, he didn't know the outcome. I have a dream
Mm.
that one day, he didn't know what day it was, he didn't know what time in history. He said,
Yeah.
"I have a dream. I know the direction of where we should take our next step, where
Mm.
the kids won't be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." That is the direction that I want us to focus. From every mountaintop, let freedom ring. That's a direction. So those people who listen to the speech is just like, okay, I know the direction we are heading as a nation. So what process do we need to do? What practices do we need to do? What people do we need to enlist in this process? So and that all of us have it, but we have this thing, and that's the ego, and that's the enemy and our adversaries.
Mm.
Is constantly causing doubt. It's just like, you're unsure. Who are you to do that? You don't have the entire plan. And that's where it says, my favorite text is like, without faith it's impossible to please him. Like, there's nothing great that has ever happened. Just like, you know what? We're gonna take pieces of metal and we're gonna go through space.
Yeah.
What? We didn't even have color TV back then. And then we're
Yeah.
landing on the moon. Like, think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's so the people who create great things live in the possibilities. The people who confine to their realities live in their realities. Like, this is just the way it is. And they often stay stuck and they watch the people who are doing the things. And that's why I have in my office the man in the arena. I rather fail publicly than than fail in private. So I rather
Mm.
be in the game than be in the crowd and say, "Oh, you could have done that better. You could have done that better." No, I want to be in the game, coach, and I'll learn as I go.
So you really have to think as and act as if there is no box versus thinking outside the box,
Yeah,
right? Because you think about some of the things that we've seen in our lifetime, and would have who would have ever thought like some of the things that we have like right now, like just like someone even Steve Jobs is a guy to even think about like a smartphone, right? And everything that we're doing with that, right? Like who would have thought that.
yeah. And I'll jump in. I know you're gonna say something, Eric, too. My mom, growing up, my mom would drive around with a compass. Like, I'm not there's map,
Mm.
but she would have a physical compass. And I'm like, Mom,
Wow.
there's GPS. You don't need that. She was like, I know my north from south. Now I drive a car that is autonomous driving. It drives itself, it parks itself. My mom wasn't even she wasn't even exposed to the possibilities. Your turn, Eric. Jump in.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, this is all powerful, and I think what you said really clears it up. This idea of being clear on the direction and not necessarily the outcome, because some of these visionary people, like JFK, John F. Kennedy, who said, "Yeah, we're gonna go to the moon," and the technology really wasn't there for that to happen yet. And people were like, "Well, how are we gonna do that?" I don't know. I just know.
We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it
Right?
out.
And
Hmm.
there's a speech by Steve Jobs, and he's talking about the iPad. This is what, years and years ago, and he said, "You know what? I know the technology doesn't exist for this." So he says this, but we're going to have a computer that's going to be inside of a notebook. I don't know how we're going to do it. The technology doesn't exist. I can just see it.
Hmm.
And I think that's really kind of what we're talking about here. And I cut you off because I mean what you were saying when you were going down the third C was so profound. I just thought we needed to capture that. But let's get back on the road for the people that are like, man, what are those other two C's?
What
So
are those other two C's?
so,
Don't
so
hold
first
out.
so first we got what, capacity, right? And then you said competency. Then you said courage. We're talking about the five C's of moving from pressure to purpose. So let's get to the other. What's the fourth C?
The fourth C is connection. And this is who we're connected to. One of my favorite books, Who Not What. So we focus on who we're connected to that leads us to our next step. And the best investments we can make are relationships. The worst investments are also we can make in relationships.
Mm.
And then the last step is curiosity. So are we constantly exploring the next step? Are we exploring our craft? Because as we think about what makes someone an expert in their craft, is their obsession of exploration of that specific subject. That's all it is. And they had time to prove that they've been obsessed in exploring that subject.
One thing you kind of went through it kind of quickly on that fourth C of the connection, and you were saying basically your connection could be a great thing, or your connections could be a not so great thing, in so many words, and that's so true, right? Where they say like that circle that you're in, right? That can move you forward or hold you from moving. And
Yeah.
so you gotta, again, kind of going back, I think, as you talked about, kind of cleaning up your situation, your desk, your space. Sometimes you might have to clean up that circle that you're
Hmm.
in if you're not moving, and find other circles that can help to propel you to the places that you want to be, or where God has you destined for greatness.
Yes. Amen.
Mm.
Sure. All right. So let's talk about your book. So you're the author of Finding Clarity, Your Guide to Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity. So what are people going to get from reading this?
Oh, they're going to get a filtering process and a system that allows them to make better decisions, because there's a lot of informations that are out there and constantly vying for our attention and saying this is important, urgent, urgent. But the question is, we're not in deprivation of information, but we're in deprivation of wisdom. So how we filter things is how we move through things. And in Finding Clarity, readers who've read the book so far is just like, man, like it felt like you were speaking to me. And this was exactly what I was dealing with. Like chapter 9, well, all of them are my favorite chapters, but chapter 9 is the power of subtraction. And I talk
Mm.
about OQP, only quality people. So it's not personal, it's purposeful. And then legacy over hype in chapter 10. And then chapter 13, which is low key like my favorite one, is it's the devil and God having a conversation on behalf of us. And these things are constantly happening to keep us, the adversaries, and it's like a conversation which is like, God, you always do this, and it's like, the devil, you. So it's this dialogue that they're having, because our adversary is trying to keep us in default, and our creator is trying to keep us in clarity. So
Mm.
ending the book with those two conversation, and in that you see like a young lady, and she's having that tug of war of, do I live in what's comfortable or do I live in courage? And it's a beautiful like ending to it.
Hmm. People need to pick up that book. So
Yeah, man.
if somebody wants to get a copy of the book, what's the best way for them to get that?
Amazon. That's the best way because I don't feel like shipping it out. It is hard. You got to go to the post office. You got we're not on that anymore. Just go to Amazon. It goes direct. But if you want me to sign it, I will send it to you.
All right, yeah.
That's
As a
great.
fellow author, I feel your pain. Trust me. All right, but and I'm going to give people another opportunity again before we sign off, to get a copy of the book as well, or get the information to get the copy. So you mentioned wisdom several times throughout this conversation. Like, what is your definition of wisdom, and how does it really relate to this journey for clarity?
Yeah, it's knowing where the direction is. It knows wisdom is understanding why it's happening. Wisdom is understanding how to navigate, how to make decisions that creates a better outcome and a better future. So when
Mm,
we practice living in wisdom, the decision is not, okay, what's good for me in the moment versus what's good for me in the long term. So wisdom is discipline, and when we're disciplined long term, that's when development happens. So wisdom is thinking, how do I develop in this process, versus why is this happening to me, or what do I need to do? Wisdom is saying, what's the benefit? What is this teaching me versus why is this happening?
interesting. And I know this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but when I think about wisdom, right, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing this graphic that has like wisdom and then wisdom, like, and there's these arrows connecting it, right? Because you need wisdom in order to have wisdom, right? When you
Yeah.
think about it, I'm listening to you talk about it, like, okay, yeah, this wisdom, like, yeah, wisdom comes from some of the things that you've done, that you gained in order to get wisdom. So it's kind of this circular thing that's, wisdom is feeding wisdom, and it's constantly happening,
Mhm.
right? So what you learned as a child, there's some wisdom. And that's what I think when they start talking about, with age and experiences comes wisdom. So it seems like, life is just this continuous kind of circle of just wisdom, just feeding wisdom as you go throughout your life. But along the way, you're connecting with other circles, right? There's a Ted circle, there's a David circle, and there's an Eric circle, all with this wisdom. And so I get a little bit from Eric and get a little bit from
Mhm.
David, and continue to feed that. And what I learned from you all, I'm able to go over here and take over here to the next person. So yeah, that's just a real that kind of took me there. See, David, being around you, man, got me thinking.
I'm telling you, sheesh,
Got me ready to write a chapter.
man.
Chapter.
Let's go.
Yeah,
And then
I'm
and
telling
it could be a pendulum too. So just like wisdom can compound and it's an infectious, foolishness and
you.
foolishness is infectious too.
Yeah, foolishness can do that too. That goes back to your connection
Yes.
thing, right? If you're around some foolishness, you'll continue to add more foolishness into your into your graphic.
And I think wisdom is more important now than ever, just because there's so much information out there. It's so easy
Mm,
to access information,
Yeah.
right? You can
yeah,
ask your little phone any question now with AI and
yeah,
all this other stuff. You can get all kinds of knowledge and information, but wisdom is how do you apply it,
yeah,
right? And applying it the right way. So I just think, yeah, the person who's got wisdom is going to win
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
long run.
And you can't just add whatever, right? Find something on the phone through some information, and it's not good information, right? But it's out there. Somebody else's thoughts that's out there. But I mean, you're not going to take in just everyone's, thoughts, perspective either.
Yeah.
So a
And
reliable source you'd want.
100%. And like wisdom is knowing that tomato is a fruit, but you're not gonna put it in a fruit salad. So it's just like you know it's like this is a fruit, but I'm
Yeah,
not. Hold on, this is gonna taste weird. And that's like
yeah.
you said, Eric. It's the application of it, just not just the knowledge of it.
Yep, for sure. So what do you want people to remember about today's episode, David?
Every day find clarity. Every day make progress. If you do those two
Mm.
things, that life that you want or the life that God has created you to live, you'll eventually find it. Because if you're finding clarity and you're making progress, you're in the right direction, and that's the next right step.
Mm.
Powerful. That's powerful. That is powerful. I think, David, you
And
changed someone's life. Somebody's listening. They had to pull over to the side of the road.
man, David been dropping the mic all show,
Yeah, for sure,
picking it
man.
up, dropping it, picking it up, dropping it. Oh,
Appreciate it.
the whole show. Great stuff.
So, David, thank you for everything you shared. What's the best way again for people to connect with you and get your book and inquire about your services?
Yeah, the best way is I'm on social media, the Clarity Guy underscore. And then if you want to book Amazon, just David B. Prosper, and you'll find Finding Clarity. But I live on Instagram out of all social media, and I would love to connect with you, hear your story, and then grab either a virtual coffee with you or in person coffee with you if you're in Utah.
All right. So, thank you once again.
Well,
And
it's gonna have to be virtual coffee. I ain't going to Utah no time soon. You know, I was like, ah, man, that sounds good. Nah, man, you're gonna get a link. You can get a Zoom link, man. I'm not going to Utah, man. Just kidding.
oh man. So, for those of you who are watching and listening, speaking of sharing, don't forget to share the
Share
show.
the show. Share the show. Share
That's
the
right.
show.
Don't keep this great information to yourself. And don't forget, you can actually visit the 30 Minute Hour podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those podcasting platforms. All you have to do is hit subscribe or follow, and you'll get an instant notification whenever we do a new episode. And you'll never miss a new episode.
You get shows like today, man. I mean, with David Prosper, man, this has just been great. This has been great, man. I watch Eric in our shows and just keep this between the three of us, right? But I think today, I seen Eric kind of shake his head more than I think ever. And it was like I thought he has a nervous condition. It was some he was putting out some good stuff, man. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you both. This has been one of the most enjoyable conversations because it's like it's like a conversation we're all having, and it's like a potluck, a community potluck, and that's what you showed up and asked great questions and had great input. So it was beautiful to be a part of.
Yeah, so
So
this to Ted's point, right? There's some episodes where I forget that I'm the host.
that's
That I'm
right.
supposed to actually be driving. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
so this is clearly one of those episodes I'm gonna have to, when I'm working out, go back and listen to it so I can really grasp some of these nuggets that you were sharing.
Absolutely.
Well, that's our time for this week on the 30 Minute Hour podcast. And as we think about moving from pressure to purpose, please consider this. Don't allow perfect to become the enemy of progress,
Yeah.
because your next level starts with the next step.
Mm.
Have a great one.
Sir.